There you go.
How's it going?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Good. We appreciate you putting up with the shenanigans and coming on.
Well, anything to talk about your twice failed league.
Oh, get out of here, man.
So I wanted to set the stage today. This is what I woke up to today. I woke up to more comments basically saying, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. Basically saying...
That's up for debate. I'm kidding.
But saying, I don't feel comfortable handing over the keys to our 108-year league to The Rock. And I go, two things. It's not a 108-year league. It's a merged rugby league back in the 50s. And you're not handing the keys over to The Rock. So
you're handing the league over to nobody because there's no such league. What's the league?
Well, but it's the
What's
ownership
the XFL?
behind it. It's the ownership behind it. If you got rid, so if they didn't have the XFL, if they started and just called it the RFL, the Rock Football League, would you have a problem with it?
Yes. Because every league has failed. Every single football league has failed. Are we rolling? Are we on, or are we just talking?
We're good.
We're going.
If you would like to go.
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
You want to reset? We could reset and go.
No, this is fine.
Yeah.
So let me paint a scenario for you. We're going to start a football league. We are going to have it televised by CBS and then NBC and then ABC. And then ESPN's going to buy a stake in this football league. And they're going to televise it. That sounds like it's, after a couple of networks have had it. And then NFL Network's going to jump on and they're going to start televising some of this stuff. And then Ted Leonsis, the owner of the Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards, is going to jump in and get ownership. And we're going to have a franchise in Washington, D.C. This is can't miss, right, for pro football? Welcome to the Arena Football League that doesn't exist anymore, that went into bankruptcy. Guys, pro football leagues do not work. There have only been two that have worked. The NFL, which is a behemoth, forget it. Don't even compare anything with the NFL. You can't. And the CFL. And every other league, be it the Alliance of American Football, be it the World League of American Football, be it Arena Football 2, be it Arena Football, be it the XFL twice, they have all failed. And there's a reason for that. It's not just that the CFL's business model doesn't work. It just doesn't work. People do not have interest in anything outside of major college football and the NFL in the United States. And in Canada, people like the NFL and people like the Canadian Football League. And that's it. There has been nothing has shown us, and history as a way of repeating itself, i.e. pandemic at the moment, history as a way of repeating itself. And nothing we have seen in history, from the USFL that had real stars to even leagues that have had major money backing it. Vince has more money than The Rock. To networks supporting it, to networks investing in it, it has not succeeded.
So you just say, that's it, CFL's running?
No. So my question is, when you have the only other league that works, why would you then merge with a complete unknown hanging to a brand, and the league is nothing other than a brand?
The marketing that they have?
What marketing? What is it? What's the marketing of this league? Tell me about the marketing of this. Who's running the marketing of it?
The fact you have a $4 billion ownership
uniforms.
Group.
You have no football people.
Well,
you have no helmets. You have nothing. You have nothing but a name. That's all the XFL is right now.
No,
it's a name.
The XFL is the $4 billion behind it, with ties to Wasserman Media and Fenway Sports Group and insurance groups and streaming groups and production groups and things like that. There's a lot more behind Redbird.
The Fenway Sports Group has no interest in making spring football, putting spring football on their priority list.
Then why would all this be involved then? Why would they be involved with Redbird and all of this and doing this if they had no interest?
Because they want Redbird's money to be involved with the Boston Red Sox and to do bigger projects beyond that. Not spring. When you think about where you make money in sports from 1980 to 2000 to now 2020, who has ever made a dime off spring football?
when has spring football ever really gotten a shot? We're talking about a once in a generation, in a multiple generation issue that happened this last year. I'm telling you,
we'd be watching XFL right now.
If it weren't for the pandemic, we'd be watching the XFL right now.
Well, if fans and butts were candies and nuts, what a Merry Christmas it would be.
Right, I know. Same thing.
What happened to the XFL the first time?
But see, you can't compare anybody that compares anything to 01.
Fine. Then what about the Alliance of American Football?
Totally different. Rushed, went in 9-month head start, went in under a year, had no money behind it.
I just continue to bring up leagues to you, and you guys are saying, well, you can't compare with that, and that wouldn't work. But if not for the pandemic, the XFL would be a success.
The management and it's the pandemic. Those are two big things. USFL, you mentioned that. Look at the management in the USFL. They're paying Steve Young. How many dollars did they pay Steve Young to be the face of that league? They outbid the NFL, and it ended up breaking the USFL. You're talking about management issues, and you're not even giving a fair shake to the potential of the management that's coming on in the XFL with Danny and The Rock. You're not even you're dismissing it already. You're just going, well, this is not going to.
What have I seen from either of these people in running a football league?
What have you seen? What have you seen other than the football league that they've been successful at? Everything they've touched, they've been successful at. Everything. And just the XFL is going to be the one outlier, the one that doesn't work. Everything they touch works. Danny and The Rock, everything they touch works.
But how can you... Okay, so among the things, let's go through what they've touched. And let's compare it to how that has any relevance to running a professional football league.
But Danny and The Rock are not... The face and the money and the branding behind it. They have Jeffrey Pollock. They're going to bring in like...
What's the brand?
What do you mean?
What's the brand of the XFL?
I don't know what you're asking.
Well, what is it?
Well,
because I look at the XFL right now. No, hold on.
Yeah.
I look at the XFL right now. What is it? The XFL right now is a logo that maybe they change it, maybe they don't. That's on your hat, Reed.
Terrible hat, by the way.
Terrible hat.
So there's your marketing. Do we have one person involved? Is there one player signed to a contract anywhere?
No.
Is there a football operations employee anywhere?
Jeffrey Pollock.
One. Okay. Is there another one?
There's a handful of people behind this.
Yeah. Tim Raskell, I think, is involved too.
Yeah, but we're getting...
why would you... If you're the XFL... Why, and you have a bunch of history and you've had a bunch of championships, are you going to put all of that aside and merge with Hulk Hogan, who's starting up an upstart league he says, I'm going to have 9 teams, and do it that way? Because
if the CFL didn't run last year and needed $30 million to do a bubble season, right? And they're going to do it this year, and they didn't get that money last year.
They might.
They didn't play this year. So where is that money going to come from, if not from Redbird or some other source? Because the CFL can't do it themselves this year. They proved it. They would have ran last year, and you're telling me that whatever they needed... I spoke
with some people at the federal government last week, and they are in conversations with the CFL right now.
That'd be wonderful.
Financing.
I mean, they'd be wonderful. Yeah. I would love... I mean, the thing is, and what's been so interesting to me is I do think Americans, rightfully so, get this terrible arrogance. It's our way or the highway, all this kind of stuff.
Which it will be in this scenario when it comes to 4 downs. Which it will be in this scenario when it comes to the field. Which it will be in this scenario when it comes to having a ratio. Well, you think that... What's that team over your right shoulder in your twice failed league? Seattle Dragons?
Seattle Dragons breathing
Seattle
fire.
Dragons going to have half their roster be Canadian?
Well, I think you can do a territory system like the AAF did. And you draft people out of the local, territories that way. I think the field has to go. I just don't think the NFL stadiums can support that. But I think I have not heard any of our listeners, any of the other XFL media, any of the XFL press say no to 3 downs at all.
What's the XFL media and the XFL press? What is this? What are they covering? Nothing. There's no players on any roster.
There's no this right now. We're talking about this.
You're talking about nothing, though. You're talking about a league coming in and going with the XFL. What does the XFL media cover?
For the last 6 months, we've covered a lot of alternate football leagues and a lot of players from the XFL and the NFL. We've covered spring football. We've covered fan control football.
We're not covering a league because there is no league. The XFL is actually nothing.
There are assets. There's an organization. It isn't nothing.
What is that? What is assets? So name me a team in your twice failed league.
Once failed, and
all the teams still, everything's still.
Just name me a team.
Seattle Dragons, they're all still there.
Seattle Dragons. What are the Seattle Dragons?
They have leases in place and it's
trademarks and logos.
I'm not going to disagree that there's not a lot there, but what I'm saying is I just don't get the other option. I mean,
by not a lot there, there's nothing there other than like moldy uniforms and expired helmets and shoulder pads.
I'm sure they washed the uniform.
Do they have a staff to go wash them?
Maybe Jeffrey Pollock's doing it.
Maybe Jeffrey Pollock's doing it.
I mean, because here's the thing. To be fair, we're the XFL Markcast. I'm not, I come in.
Your marks. Yeah, I agree with that.
And so, it has nothing to be me about, trying to justify the XFL and anything. I'm just saying, an option has been presented from everyone that we've talked to Jim Mullen, president of Football Canada. We've talked to Rod Peterson. I know you've been on his show. We've talked to a lot of people that are covering this, and I'm talking to you. I mean, we're trying to get the whole picture here. And it sounds to me like the CFL is in dire straits. There's questions if they're going to run this year. The provinces are going into shutdowns. There's COVID issues. You're not going to have fans in the seats. So what are you going to do?
No, but Reed, here's what you do, Reed. You actually have some leadership and some people who put together an idea and a plan. What you have to understand about the CFL is that, hold on. I just let you do your little rant. Here's the issue. The CFL has been poorly run forever.
Yeah.
It's been poorly run at the league side and at the team side all over the place. Okay? They are always thinking about the now, and they're always looking for, well, in COVID terms, they're looking for a vaccine. They're looking for a magic bullet to save the day. Okay? That's all this XFL thing is right now. They're looking for a Hail Mary all the time. Doug Flutie got it to Gerard Phelan once. Okay? Once. There's only one Aaron Rodgers who just pulls shit out of his ass all the time with Hail Marys, and let's not, as a Vikings fan, we don't discuss Aaron Rodgers too often. But where is the future of football going in this country? And this is what I want you guys to just hear me out on.
Yep.
And I think south of the border in certain markets, this may be the same too. Moms don't want, and by moms, the proverbial moms don't want their kids playing football anymore because their kids are going to get brain damaged, not concussed. Concussion is a nice way of saying they're going to get brain damage. So to keep the sport alive long term, where is this going? Well, if you look at football registration in this country right now, I actually made some notes to come on your podcast about your twice failed league.
I appreciate it.
You got it. Flag football. What? And you're saying, well, what does flag football have to do with anything? Do you know the plan is for flag football to be an Olympic sport in 2028? Yes. When the LA game, well, if the LA Olympics happen, who knows what's going to happen with the future of the Olympics because of COVID? Do you know that beginning next year for football players registered under 12 in Canada, 12-on-12 tackle football is banned?
Why?
So the future, why? Because brain damage happens when you continue to collide head on head like this.
I know that. I get that. I played football.
So there is more of the emphasis on flag is significant. In 2020, now granted this is a COVID year, but there were 28,000 registered under 18 football players in Canada. 80% of those were non-contact. Spring of 2021, 90% of registered players in football flag. In 2018, flag football represented 41,000 participants, male and female. Tackle was 79,000 male, 1,300 female. The future of grassroots football is going into flag. Okay? If you are a business like the Canadian Football League, if you are seeing this happening right here, what has the CFL done to grow a grassroots flag football program? Nothing. Nothing. Their league, they knew basically in July, August that they were not going to play in 2020. They said, we're going to come out and fix our business model. And what have they come back with? It's now April. We're coming up on what, 9 months?
Nothing.
Other than a merger with your twice failed league, nothing. There has been nothing other than let's strip the players for more money, let's cut staff, and staff who are making no money. No. Let's take away from their pocketbooks too. So the issue with the CFL, yes, is their business program, but more than that is the leadership at the league level and at the team level to not even like this is just a basic program where you can have an investment in get every kid playing flag football wearing a different CFL jersey. Make that a priority. Show moms, hey, we care about your young kid. We want to be part of this. But instead, they're looking for the Hail Mary all the time. They're saying, wait until we get out of the baseball stadium in Toronto. We're going to move outdoors. We're going to have tailgating. It's all going to be fixed like that. Wait till Johnny Manziel shows up. Then all our problems are solved and he's going to sell 1 million tickets. We're going to bring Ricky Williams to Toronto and he's going to take the city by storm. Nothing is a quick fix. Look, I understand The Rock has a lot of money, and I understand Redbird's got a lot of money. They have no idea how to run a pro football league. And everything that we have seen in spring football in every league all over the place has failed. And here's what I'm going to tell you guys about what I've noticed about rich people with a lot of money who invest in sport. They love it in the beginning. They love being called Mr. or Mrs. and their last name. They love getting to go to the parties with the players and the coaches. They love walking the field. They love being in the broadcast booth on ESPN and CBS and NBC and the rest. And then you know what happens after year one? They're like, oh, shit, we lost a lot of money. And then after year two, they lose a lot more. And then suddenly that novelty, it wears off and it wears off in a hurry. And then what ends up happening, all those ideas and all those plans and all those visions that they had for this thing, they start getting stripped away because it costs too much. And I'm not saying just football. That happens all the time and there's a reason why there's the 4 major sports, because those leagues have a business model where you don't lose money.
You can count 5 now. MLS has grown.
But
I'm with you there.
But you said
that's fair.
And you said yourself, right, that there's issues with CFL management too, right, with ownership, with all this stuff. So if they're not going to come around to it, I mean, here you're presenting.
Why not? Option. But why not?
Well, because you just said they haven't in the last a year. I mean, because I'm on your side here, right? So if we're trying to save this, right? I mean, I don't want anything to die, right? I don't want anything. I mean, I covered the stupid Twitch football league. Don't talk to me about, covering not wanting stuff to succeed, right? So if you're saying for the last year, CFL ownership hasn't done enough, CFL management, they don't have a plan. So then are they just going to wake up tomorrow? I mean, what's the solution then?
I think he's
saying.
But
amidst all of this, they've survived 100 years. What other league has? What other league has?
So I think you're banking too much on the fact that they've survived for 100 years, as opposed to the fact that they need to survive for another 100 years. You're just like, well, they've survived for 100 years, and that's the explanation as to why they're going to survive 10 more.
If I had any evidence in front of me that says the XFL is going to work a third time, well, what's your plan? What's the plan? How is this going to work?
Your plan. Well, I mean, you've given a solution. You said the flag football thing is growing. That's your solution.
That's an idea. I'm saying they've come out with nothing. But you know what they tried to do? The brilliant minds at the league office, they came together and they said, we're going to charge our fans, get blood out of a stone, $300 a person if you would like to put your name on a virtual Grey Cup trophy.
That's dumb.
They thought that was going to sweep the country.
So to answer your
brilliance.
To answer your question about this surviving, so our parent site, XFL News Hub, did a wonderful interview this week with Dunk and Hodge over at 3 Down Nation. And, and John Hodge came on there and he said, I'm a XFL or a CFL loyalist, I'm colored, but this is what I want, right? And they had this great question, and they said, yes, the league has survived, but don't we want the league to thrive? There's a difference between surviving. So that's what I'm saying is if you've just, eked by the last, it's not 108 years, it's whatever from the CFL from 58 or whatever, at some point, don't you want to move this into the 21st century and get going here and figure out, streaming and video games and on demand and apps and getting the
by the way,
involved.
the Arena Football had video games too, multiple.
One.
Multiple, yeah.
So I'm just saying, at some point you. But
what I'm saying is, but why are you going all in with nothing on nothing? If I'm going to invest, okay, let's take this aside. Let's say I'm an investor in my own money, and you say to me, "Okay, let's invest into the XFL." I'm like, "All right, what do you got?" Well, we got The Rock and we got Danny. Cool. What else?
You have the 8 cities set up. You have logos. You have teams. You have a rule book. You have that thing.
What rule book?
The XFL rule book.
Oh, so then that's it. It's the XFL rule book.
No, I'm saying. I feel like that is. I feel like that's a trap.
I'm asking what it is. I'm asking what it is I'm investing in.
I think you're investing in a potentially new way of thinking that could open you up to some ideas that the league has been closed off at for seemingly the last 20 years about doing things on demand and streaming and making games accessible for fans that would want to see it that aren't on TSN. That would be a start, allowing everyone to be able to watch the games in Canada. That would probably be a good
don't name me another team other than Seattle because we've worn out Seattle.
We have the LA Wildcats. We have the Houston Roughnecks.
So I'll tell you this.
We have the Dallas Renegades.
If the LA Wildcats roll into Winnipeg or Saskatchewan or Hamilton, the number of Canadians who would give a flying bleep about the LA Wildcats quarterbacked by
Josh Johnson was his last quarterback. Was his last quarterback? I mean, we're talking.
I mean, I'm the franchise player, and you here talking about practice. We are talking about merging a league with Josh Johnson.
There you go. Here's the thing. I'm not saying it's a good answer, but what I'm saying is when Dave Naylor tweets today, "Hey, you better get your minds wrapped around a merger." That's just all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a good idea, right?
That's what I'm telling you. It's not.
Well,
it's not.
It may not be, but if this is if Dave Naylor is tweeting today, "Hey, get your minds wrapped around a potential merger coming on."
He also said "if" and a capital "if."
I've heard Dave Naylor is as close to anybody in this entire world with what's going on right now that could speak.
Yeah,
I'm just.
Do you want me to hop off here and let you guys just go?
Sorry, Paul.
Well, the water carrying has got to be done by somebody.
What is the XFL? It's a league that gave Taylor Heineke a $4.75 million contract over 2 years. It's a league that gave PJ Walker numerous starts this season. So what's the XFL? It's the step to get you to the NFL here in the U.S. It is. The CFL
has been that too.
Mute him. There are success stories about people that have played in the XFL that have gone on to the NFL. And you're dismissing it as a twice failed league, one time because of a flippin' once in a multiple generation pandemic. You're dismissing it a second time, as opposed to, the first time that was whack. That was ridiculous. They tried to make it like the WWE, and it sucked. It was terrible. It was nonsense. I love the names on the back of the jerseys, but that was it. They actually had a system in place, an organization in place to make it happen this time, and the numbers proved it.
We have
the
30.
Problem was there was a pandemic.
No. The numbers proving it is just nonsense. You know why? Because the numbers proved it the first few weeks in 2001, didn't they? What did the numbers prove in the first third of the season of the first XFL go around? You cannot say anything was proven with a sample size of 6 weeks. 6 weeks does not determine anything.
How big was your sample size for the CFL last year?
100 years.
I'm talking about last year, man. We're talking 1 year to 1 year. What was your sample size last year?
Listen.
Oh wait.
What you're telling me is you're AAA baseball. You're the AHL. You're saying this is where you're going to get guys on the way to the show. I'm telling you, there is not a big enough audience for that long term. I will assure you of that. It doesn't matter what sport. It has nothing to do with football. If you're going to be the pathway for Taylor Heineke to go from the Vikings and the practice roster and then out of football on the couch and then he ends up in the XFL and then he goes and gets an opportunity in the NFL, that is not going to get people interested. Because guess what? The best story of all was Kurt Warner, Iowa Barnstormers, and we've already talked about where Arena ended up.
I'm turning down the heat in my house. the nest is getting.
I was like, wait for Reed to jump in.
Well,
there.
I had my staff.
I was waiting for you to do the Iraqi thing. You were running, Reed. Come on now. What happened? You're out of breath.
I have my Mike Mitchell stat here. 38 XFL players on the NFL roster and 80 former XFL players are on CFL rosters right now. I agree that
but nobody cares.
Well, 1.3 million people a week cared.
They did for the first few weeks. How many people watched the first few weeks of the first XFL go around? And then how many watched at the end?
Well, but again, that's
But because it doesn't fit your narrative.
Well, it doesn't fit your narrative. If they had called it something completely different than the XFL the second time around.
No, if this was AAF, if the CFL came out today and the AAF was just launching, I'd say this is stupid too. And if the CFL was going to merge with the Spring League that's just about to launch with Mike Riley, who's had so much success at the CFL and college level, if Mike Riley puts a stamp on it, let's do that. That's stupid too. You need to have something with a little bit of a proven track record. There is nothing here that suggests that these guys are going to have anything that's going to work longer than a couple of years.
And there's
at best.
And there's nothing in current ownership of the CFL that's going to suggest you guys are going to make it another couple years.
Says who?
This is the books. It sounds like
you're contradicting yourself. Really?
No, I'm not, because but the reason why this year. No, I just told you. The reason why is they're working with the federal government to get some kind of funding. Plus, and this is where it's going to get really interesting. Is what the CFL's long-term plan here is to minimize and crush Canadians and dismantle the Canadian Football Players Association. And by merging and by doing this with the twice failed league, what they're going to be able to do is really reduce player salaries, which is absolutely what they want. That's their intention, and that's a big part of this.
And I'm with you on that same page. They shouldn't be reducing player salaries anymore. They're not getting paid enough. They're not getting paid enough.
So let me ask you this then. When we announced that you were going to come on, polarizing, needless to say, had a lot of DMs. One I got last night from a listener. He goes, he's a really nice guy, but I hate his guts. So
nice.
But here's the thing, because we give the big thing on our show.
Only half of that is true.
Well, that's true. We like to. I'm a solutions opinions guy on here, right? We're not, and I've even with the CFL people on the boards and stuff. I think we get credit for being open minded, having both sides, all this kind of stuff. A lot of criticism that I've seen from you are, he hates the CFL, anti-CFL, all that stuff, right? So if we want it to succeed, if we want you to not be the bad guy, right, to be the I hate the CFL thing, what do we do here? What do what?
Yeah, but
besides
25
converting to
people
flag
tell
football.
me I hate the CFL, how much do you think that affects me?
Well, and that's fine. It's not at all. But I'm just saying, I want to get solutions here. Besides moving to flag football. Let me
just throw this scenario at you guys. Let's just say somehow, some way, your twice failed league actually succeeded once, and it lasted about 10 or 15 years, and then it was in some financial turmoil. And then a league in Norway says to you, hey, let's merge. We got ourselves an Olympic speed skater who's a mega star out here, and we're going to change your rules.
I'm all in.
Let's put your teams together with the 8 teams in Oslo and everywhere else, and we're going to play by a whole new set of rules, and somebody else is going to run the league, but we're going to merge. What are your thoughts on that?
You're assuming that it's the XFL rules. I love your rules. I want Canadian rules.
And
there is no way, Paul, you know this and I know this. There is no way there is going to be any kind of broadcast revenue in the United States for 3-down football with a field that size, with a 55 and a C in the middle of the field, and with goalposts at the front of the end zone.
Well, the goalposts at the front.
You and I both know, all three of us know, there is no chance that's going to happen.
But here's the thing, and we've talked with it. We are football fans.
We all are. Of course we are.
It doesn't need to be. And I've talked with a lot of people this week, and they go, I ask them, I go, are you a football fan or are you a CFL fan? And they go, I'm a CFL fan. I go, well, then I can't help you because we cover football on this show. And if you're telling me if someone's coming in and doing whatever, like I said, if I spent the last 6 months of my life covering the stupid fan-controlled football, spending 40 freaking hours a week interviewing all these stupid players, we are fans of football. And so if you're asking me if they're going to come in and help the league if we're in turmoil and move on, I'm for it at this point. But that's clearly not how a lot of CFL fans are. And that's what we're trying to figure out here. Because it doesn't seem like you guys, and that's fine. I mean, you can go down with the ship. But like I said, from everybody that I've talked to on XFL and CFL sides, and I'm not a big whatever insider person, but it really seems like something is happening with unified leagues and unified rules, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that means. But I'll tell you this, in November of 2019, which isn't that long ago, the boastful commissioner of the Canadian Football League said, we have our ownership set up. It's time to take the next step as a league. We have CFL 2.0 global expansion. We are bigger and badder than we've ever been before. We are not a small-time league. We are... Then the pandemic hits and they're like, yeah, our business model doesn't work and we have problems with ownership. Yeah. So which one is it, guys? Which one? That's
what we're asking. Which one is it? We're there with you.
Yeah, we're there with you.
And I think it's a lot more the latter than it is the former. Yeah. But I truly believe this. Selling your soul to go down the river with something that is not established whatsoever for a product that very easily can get forgotten about in the sports landscape is a major mistake.
Okay.
Do you think that are you against the idea of spring football of any kind? I think that's what you said earlier in all this.
It's not that I'm against the idea of spring football of any kind. I truly do not believe spring football can work in North America.
You just don't think there's the bandwidth.
Paul, what was our wager on Sunday? And I'm being dead honest with you. I'm assuming you live in California or Arizona or something?
I live in California, and I was born and raised in Tucson, so that's why I'm very partial to the Wildcats. So what happened at 2:06 in the fourth quarter? What happened at 2:06? Tell me what happened there. We're going to break this down. You remember what happened with 2 minutes?
What I'm going with this is spring football has in its way the NCAA tournaments.
I see where you're going.
Has itself the Masters, has itself. What's going to be the bigger deal, the NFL draft or the XFL playoffs? Like there's an appetite for football at certain points of the year, and there's appetite for only certain bits of football. And I wish it wasn't that way, because truthfully, guys, if it were up to me, if there was a Stanley Cup Finals game and there was a high school football game on, I'm watching the high school football game. I love football. I hate football 6 days a week because it drives me crazy, because they're killing these guys, because they're modern day tobacco. But then, damn it, the game starts and it's a beautiful thing to watch when there's not needless head hits for no reason. But what we've seen for generations, plural, what we've seen in so many different indoctrinations, indoor, outdoor, small field, big names, no names, middle of the road names, is that it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And God bless Dwayne Johnson for sleeping on a mattress in Calgary and his supposed passion for the CFL. But I just do not see how there is a long-term interest when this thing will hemorrhage money long-term. It will. Because there will be some interest, there will be some broadcast revenue in the beginning, there will be committed ownership in the beginning, and then the losses will pile up. And the reason why Redbird's interested in going to the Boston Red Sox is because the Boston Red Sox are able to play a Major League Baseball season with zero revenue from fans and still be okay. The NFL and teams in California had how many fans this season? Zero. And yet they were still able to make it a go because they were a plus revenue before they sell a ticket, a parking spot, a popcorn, a Coca-Cola, or a beer. I don't know if you can say Coca-Cola anymore in the state of Georgia, but that's a different story. What I'm saying here is football works. Spring football doesn't. And everything we've ever seen has proven that and shown that. And so for the CFL to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, I am not on board with that. I am a fan of football. I want to see Canadian football succeed.
So
I get that kids don't grow up wanting to be CFL players. It's not because they have NFL dreams. It's because they want to make the money. And kids are not going to grow up saying, man, I want to be a Seattle Dragon. They're saying, I want to be a Seattle Seahawk. But there's more of a chance that they're going to say, I want to be a Saskatchewan Roughrider if I grew up in Saskatchewan.
And I don't disagree. To be fair, from the beginning, we've always said, the XFL needs the lineage and the legacy. The CFL needs, at this point, some money, right? And so I'm not saying that I think that it's the best solution, right? And we certainly didn't get into this. You talk about XFL media and stuff. I didn't think a year ago that we would be talking to a CFL, broadcaster right now and doing these sorts of things, right? But I think if this is where it is, if this is something that is on the table and being presented, I'm just trying to kind of navigate what this is going to look like. And I'm not saying it's the right answer, but it is an answer. And if everything that's happened in the last year and a half that we've gotten to this point, and now I see photos of Ontario, I think this morning, looking just like Seattle did last year with people lined up at Costco waiting for a stay-at-home order. We lived through all that last year. And if this is what got us to this point, I'm not saying it's what anyone wanted, but if it's where we are now, then we need to figure it out.
Figure it out. Okay, but figure it out before you're fully in on this thing.
Well, and that's, I think that's what they're doing. Right?
Like imagine this being your money. Imagine that this being your passion. You're like, I'm not putting everything I've worked for to be like, well, let's just go all in and see what happens. How diversified is your stock portfolio, Canadian Football League? Like, you had a year to come up with something, and it's this and nothing else?
I agree.
And to that point, like, we're making a lot of assumptions as to what is going on internally in the organization of the XFL. You're saying you don't think they have anything. We're defending it more so, and you're saying twice failed league. You're saying they don't have anything. We, the three of us, do not know what's being talked about inside the organization. They could have a lot more that they haven't rolled out. You have to agree with me on that.
Yeah, we don't know anything. Yeah, that's true. But here's what we do know. How many staff people do they have? How many players do they have under contract? How many coaches do they have in place? What's the whole structure going to be? I bet we don't know, but I bet they don't have a lot of those answers themselves. They may have a few, but I bet you they don't have many.
Well, I think, from what I've been told, these talks have gone back to, at least October, when they bought the league in August. I would think we would have been much further along with the XFL structure in place right now had all these talks not been going on since October. So I think, it is fair to criticize them and judge them. I absolutely agree, right? But it is also saying like, well, why would they be building this infrastructure internally if they didn't even know where these talks were going to end up? So I think it's the chicken before the egg, but I do think that they're both connected in that way.
So Redbird is investing how much into this thing?
Let me do the math here.
Yeah, I don't. I have Twitter researchers that do this information for me.
Well, you got yourself a staff, man.
No, I have.
Here's my staff.
No, I have. It's a blessing and a curse.
I got this as a staff.
I do know that Redbird is definitely putting more money behind the Fenway Sports deal because of course you have the Red Sox, you got Liverpool. You don't mention Liverpool at all. They're involved in that as well. I'm trying to see real quick how much money they actually have put capital into this thing. They manage over $4 billion in assets. That's more money. That's more money than Vince. I'm trying to think here. This article doesn't say it. It's from our partners over at XFL News Hub.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark, for that. Right.
Roughly, what's your guess?
I would guess.
Well, they bought it for $15 million.
So this is my point. They can walk away with this and it'll be a drop in the bucket.
Oh, yeah.
Then what?
Why would they buy it if they didn't want to make it work, though?
But then what?
They'll give it a try. They'll give it a try.
But then what?
But here's the thing: if you've spent $15 million on something and you end up being like, there are CFL teams, guys. Understand this? Like, they're losing around $10 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to be losing way more annually than you put into this thing, good night, goodbye. And what do I have? Like, and what's my consequence? Just some money. What wreckage have you left behind?
A lot.
Everybody goes in with good intentions. Nobody outside of reality TV people probably goes into a marriage saying, well, I'm hoping for a divorce. Shit happens. And what we've seen in pro sports is a lot of shit happens and a lot of losses happen. And what's the appetite for losses for how long? And then what happens when that person walks? What's left?
Good questions.
I agree.
Moldy jerseys.
I agree. I mean, I'm not saying, I think we're further together on this than we are apart. I mean, I hate to tell you that.
Agree.
I mean, I do. It came into this and bitches this big, whatever. I mean, I have as much criticisms for anything we cover as anybody. And so I agree with you, and and I'll have the egg on my face with the XFL hat and all the other stuff. But I mean, I don't agree it's the best solution. It's just a solution. So
to me, it's not even a solution. Yeah. To me, it's an idea. And to me, it's okay, let's see if some things can work. But this all-out merger, and it's either we have to do this or the league folds and there's no owners to do it, is, to me, further really illustrates just how lost the CFL is, how poor the leadership is, how the lack of vision for what that's going to mean for grassroots football in this country, for the development of amateur football in this country, the fact that they've had a year to try and solve some different business issues, and all they've really done is come up with this and firing people. It's brutal. And they have done nothing to look into ways to generate more money other than a virtual Grey Cup trophy to put your name on it. It's as Paul's friends at the NCAA would call this, it's a lack of institutional control.
And just to round that out, we had our conversation with Jim last week. Jim Mullen really did run through all the ramifications of dismantling the Canadian football system from all those levels you talk about, right? Because when we look at this and we're joking and whatever, XFL, CFL, I mean, this is a nation of football infrastructure that would have to change. And so, yes, I mean, I definitely think that there's colossal, thousands of different, millions of different things that are going to be impacted by this.
What happened at 2:06 of the basketball game? I'm trying to remember. It
was a kickball on Stanford.
Oh, right.
Called a foul in Arizona.
Yes.
So,
yes.
in that situation, had they called those things right, you would have had to, you probably would have contributed a little bit more to Children's Hospital LA. I do appreciate that donation.
Yeah, no, likewise.
And
likewise.
So before
Stanford, by the way, the last 3 possessions, not even getting a shot up. What are they doing? Golly.
Before we let you go, what was the wager on this for you to come on? We're gonna tweet out and donate something. Can you remind me on that?
That's what we're talking about.
No, but for the game, but for him coming on the podcast, we have to do that too.
So I'm gonna put a tweet out.
Yep.
And you guys can retweet, but also just Bishop's University is my alma mater. It's a small school, an hour and a half from Montreal. They have a program, the refugee sponsorship program, basically refugees from countries all over the world looking for a shot at a better life. We have a number of refugee students who are getting a degree at Bishop's and have graduated, moved on to different things. So we're just trying to get some money raised to help them do their thing, get a degree, maybe have a beer or two in Lennoxville, Quebec while they're getting their degree. And so it's the Bishop's University Refugee Sponsorship Program. If anybody could make a donation, that would be outstanding. And Paul and I had a friendly wager on the Arizona-Stanford game, and I guess we got our gambling screws mixed up because we both made a donation. I don't even know what we were betting in the end, other than everybody got a donation, which is great.
Good.
I think what happened was you were like, Children's Hospital's getting a donation. Either way this goes. You ended up doing the 25 that you said you'd do if Arizona won. So I doubled that because your pick won. So I sent $50 to Bishop's U, and I encourage anyone and everyone to donate to Bishop's U refugee sponsorship program.
Although the 50 Canadian dollars is probably going to be 25 US anyway, or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. I feel like this has been a duel as advertised. I feel stronger.
Always nice to talk about your Twice Failed League with you guys.
I feel good about my Photoshop skills. I hope you enjoyed the video thumbnail art for this episode, and we will certainly welcome you back on once the merger is complete, and then you can tell us that we were right. So you will always have a seat here at the Markcast.
And 2 years after that, let's have another talk about.
We will. The thrice. It won't be the twice. It will be the thrice failed league.
I gotta play the lottery tonight. Can you give me some lottery numbers, Arash?
Sure.
You see the future.
Let's start with 206.
Oh, I see what you did there. Okay.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Get
him out of here,
boys.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care and God bless.
All right. See you guys.
Stay safe.